What is up, awesome peeps? Brent McCluskey here with Electrified Reviews, and today we are going over the Lectric XP folding electric bike. This thing is super affordable, super capable, and super fun to ride. Here we go. All right, guys, so again, this is the Lectric XP folding fat tire electric bike. This thing starts for a pretty incredible price of $9.99, which is substantially more affordable than a lot of the other folding electric bikes that we have tested so far. These guys also offer a 1-year warranty on this bike, and they also offer free shipping to the lower 48 in the United States. So yeah, I mean, this thing is competitive, man. I think Lectric is trying to give the competition a run for their money. Yeah, $9.99, I mean, that's affordable, man. That is a really affordable electric bike. Excited to review this one. This has been pretty fun to ride. I'm here at this was an abandoned golf course, and it was recently reopened for like a park. So yeah, we'll be exploring this here in the ride section, but that's where we're at now. So starting back here in the back of this bike, the Lectric XP has a 500-watt geared hub motor. There's not a name brand on this motor, but it looks like the Bafang motor just by those little knobs here on the outside. That looks like these little notches. This looks like the Bafang motor, and it feels really peppy. It actually feels a little bit more powerful than some of the other 500-watt fat tire electric bikes that we've tested. Not really sure why. Maybe it's their sine wave controller. I'm not really sure what it is, but this thing feels pretty peppy. Now with this 500-watt motor here, it does bring this bike up to a top speed of, I believe, 20 miles per hour out of the box, which makes this a Class 2 electric bike because it does have a throttle. But you can unlock this thing to go, I think, up to 30 miles an hour, which of course make it a Class 3 electric bike. So just, you know, we always give you guys kind of a warning here. Class 3 electric bikes, if you do want to raise that top speed, you know, they're not, you might have some legal issues depending on where you're riding. So just kind of keep that in mind. Now, to power this bike, inside the frame here is the battery. So the battery is integrated into the frame. And I'll show you guys that here when I unfold this bike to show you how to fold it up. But what's cool is it's in the frame, but you can remove it. So if I wanted to unfold this thing, pull the battery out and charge it separately from the bike, I can do that. And it's also locking. So even if somebody, you know, unfolds this bike, if you leave it unattended, they can't just pop the battery out. They have to have a key. The battery itself is going to be a 48-volt, 10.4 amp hour battery for an estimated range of about 25 miles or so. 10.4 amp hours is a little bit lower than average, I would say. Maybe just about average as far as, you know, actual watt hours go. And you know, the range, guys, like we always say, it really is going to depend quite a bit on how this thing is used and ridden, right? If I'm in the top pedal assist mode here, pedal assist level 5, if I'm hammering the throttle the entire time, if I'm going up hills, if I air down the tires, if I'm going through mud, realistically, I probably get 10 to 15 miles. But if I air up the tires, maybe keep it in like a pedal assist level 2, actually pedal instead of just using the throttle. Yeah, I mean, 25 miles is reasonable, maybe even a bit more. One of the big things that's gonna change how much miles you can get out of this is actually the tires here. And look, there's some great things about fat tires, and this thing does have fat tires, right? But so the good things about fat tires is they have a lot of air volume, so it kind of gives this thing some suspension. This is a hardtail, there's no front suspension, it's solid force, but the tires themselves offer some suspension qualities. And these tires do really good at going over soft and soggy terrain like snow, sand, mud, loose gravel, whatever. It's gonna really just float over that, again, especially if you air down the tires. Now, on the other hand, these tires have a huge tire patch. So there's gonna be a lot of rolling resistance on these, and it's gonna slow this bike down, and it's gonna force the motor to work harder to get it going. And that's gonna eat up the battery. So again, you guys have to decide, do you wanna air down the tires? Do you wanna get a more cushy ride? Or do you wanna keep it at the max PSI of 30 and have more mileage out of it? So, different strokes for different folks, as we always say here. On this side, we've got the Shimano Tourney Derailleur. Now this is an entry-level component, and that's totally fine. Like we always say, look, the reality is having an upgraded derailleur is not that big of a deal. One of the biggest pros, one of the biggest bonuses of having an upgraded derailleur is gonna be lighter weight savings. And when you got a motor on an electric bike, it just doesn't matter as much. Like you don't need, a few extra grams of savings. It's not gonna matter. It doesn't really matter that much. This bike weighs about 60 pounds overall. 60-61 aluminum alloy, 60-pound curb weight. A little heavy since it doesn't have any front suspension, but one of the things that's gonna add weight to this is actually the front forks. These are steel front forks compared to aluminum. They do add more weight, but they also have some vibration dampening qualities to them. So look, going over roads like this, kind of like raised, pebbly, not the smoothest road, it's actually gonna do really well to smooth this kind of stuff out. It's not gonna help for like, jumps or like big ruts, but for stuff like this, just like road noise, it's really gonna cut down on that. And again, that's just because the steel forks there, they kind of soak up some of that vibration. So I like that. This does have a front headlight. I'm actually gonna turn it on real quick for you. I think I have the bike here off. Let's see, let's turn this thing on. Long press, up, boom, okay. So look, even at the $999 price point, this thing has integrated headlight, okay? And it has an integrated tail light, which is just ridiculous. Like, that's awesome. You typically don't see that except for, maybe $1,500 to $2,000 price range. So really cool stuff there. Now this thing does have a cadence sensor. It's actually on this side. It's got kind of like an internal cadence sensor right there. I don't know how many magnets it has because it's internal. Probably gonna be 12, that's what it feels like. It feels like it's a little bit more responsive than a 6 magnet. But like all cadence sensors, it's gonna have a delay, right? So there's a delay from the time that I start and stop pedaling and the time that the motor actually starts kicking out power and I start accelerating, right? Now, when I stop pedaling, there's also a delay. So I can stop pedaling and the motor will be active for like maybe a half second or so. Now what's cool is this bike has motor inhibitors built into the brake levers here. It's actually this cable right here, this one. So whenever I depress the brake levers on this, it's going to automatically cut power to the motors, which is basically like a safety feature, right? Because especially on a bike that is this powerful, that can go this fast, like if you're stopping, you don't want to fight against the motor, right? So dig that. Very nice safety feature. And again, like, I don't know, man, that's like not something, that's a decent feature to have on a bike at $999. Yeah, it's whatever, I'll take it. Also, this thing comes fully assembled, guys. 100% assembled. The only thing you have to do is put some air in the tires. That is it. I mean, that is just ridiculous, so easy. So this rear rack that's on here, which of course adds the nice functionality, being able to use it as kind of a commuter. You can stow your gear on it. I actually carried one of my backpacks there on this trip here on the rear rack. That was installed. These fenders already came installed. The handlebars were already on. The front wheel was on, and that just makes it easy, man. It makes it easy to unbox this thing and get going basically as soon as you get it. It also is gonna be good because the brakes are calibrated from the company. So a lot of times when we assemble electric bikes, we have to kind of just adjust the brake housing, maybe kind of loosen these bolts right here, just move it around, just basically get it so it doesn't rub. But this thing comes ready to go, like I was saying, out of the box. And it's just, I don't know, man, it makes it really easy. I also like how Lectric, they've got pretty good wire control, right? The wire management here is on point. I think everything is wrapped. It's nice and clean. It's internally routed, goes through the main tube here, spits out the back of the tube and keeps going. Yeah, gotta like that, right? I mean, messy wires are like my arch nemesis. Oh, one more thing I wanted to point out here is on the front chainring, this is a double-sided chainring guard here. So it's gonna help to alleviate the chain from derailing towards the outside and towards the inside, because this thing kind of keeps it locked in. Really good stuff there. Now, to fold this thing, the Lectric XP, it's a pretty easy business here, all right? Takes just a couple of seconds to fold and unfold this. It's a 2-stage locking mechanism here. This little guy is going to make sure that the main locking mechanism stays in place. So I have to lift this up, pull this out, and I can now fold the frame in half. For the handlebars, there's a latch right here. All I have to do, pull that, boom. Get the kickstand out of the way. Let's get these. There we go. Okay. Oh, nah, didn't want to do it. Well, okay, you'll notice that I was trying to balance this thing on the actual pedal. And that's because this bike does not have a cage on the bottom that a lot of these folding bikes have to help balance it. And you'll see that if I leave this thing, it's gonna fall. So, I mean, that's unfortunate. I wish it did have a bracket there in the bottom to help balance it. Not a huge deal. I mean, really, am I gonna want to keep this thing stood up? Probably not. If I'm gonna fold it, I'm gonna be throwing it in the trunk. I'm gonna be storing it, but it is something I just wanted to call out here. Now to unfold it, it's the same thing, just in reverse. Oh, here's the battery, by the way. This little guy right here, you can just pull it out, and yeah, you can charge it separately if you want. There we go. Push this down, handlebars up. And that's it, guys. I mean, as you can see, it really just takes like, I don't know, 10, 15 seconds to get this thing unfolded and folded back up. Not very difficult at all. So if we head over here to the display, I actually really like this display here. So it's a long press of the independent button switch, independent button pad right here. Long switch turns the control center on. They call it an energy bar. It's the battery level here on the top. I mean, what is that, like a 10 bar or so? So there's actually a fair amount of feedback for the battery. You can have a pretty good idea of how much juice is left. Current speed, pedal assist mode, odometer. If I tap the power button, it's gonna switch to tripometer. Tap it again, I think that's trip B, how much volts is left. Timer, I don't know what that is, and back to the odometer. So for pedal assist, I can turn it down to 0, which means that it is going to be not live. There's gonna be no pedal assist, or it goes all the way up to 5 right there. One other thing that's kind of cool about this is the throttle is live from 0 miles per hour on this bike, which means that if I'm at a dead stop, because remember the cadence sensor, it takes a second to activate. So if I'm in a high gear at a standstill and I'm trying to get the motor to activate with the pedal assist, well, realistically, it's gonna take like at least a half revolution before it picks up. But I can overcome that with the throttle because it is live from 0 miles per hour. Just twist that thing and it starts going, so dig that. Well, look guys, that is pretty much it here for the review of this thing. I think now it's time to take this for a test drive, and I will show you this, this old, what was an abandoned golf course. So here we go. Awesome peeps. So in summary, the Lectric XP is going to be just an awesome choice for people who are limited on space and who are on a budget, because again, this thing starts at $999, which is a seriously competitive price point when it's really similar to a lot of other fat tire folding electric bikes for a lot more money. Now, of course, some of the components here aren't going to be as high caliber as some of the other ones, but really, this bike has just about everything that you need. I mean, so long as you're not looking for suspension, because again, of course, this is a hardtail and solid front forks. But again, look, if you guys are going on RV trips, if you have a boat, if you have just a small car and you want to be able to throw your bike in the back, fold it up, throw it in the back of your trunk, I mean, this thing is gonna definitely get the job done. It's gonna be a fairly good commuter as well because, well, it's got that rack on there so you can take it to the grocery store, you can put your luggage on it, whatever you want, and it's also gonna do, not that bad on moderate off-road trails, stuff like sand, snow, mud, because of those fat tires. Remember, it's got tons of air volume, a really wide tire patch, and it's gonna float over that soft terrain. So yeah, I hope you guys dug this review. Thank you so much for watching. Have a fantastic day, and I will catch you guys next time.